Okay. Well, good morning. Happy Friday, everyone. Happy Friday. Gosh, 3-day weekend, right? Just around the corner. Can't believe August is already gone and September is just around the corner. So thank you so much again for jumping on today's contract class. We're going to dive deep into the conversation around open houses. Open houses. So there's a lot of confusion around open houses, the do's and don'ts, best practice, and more so, what documents do we need to be filling out in order for us to successfully conduct an open house? Okay, my name is Simon Cazares. I'm the team leader and broker for KW South Bay and Coastal Properties in Long Beach. So welcome. We'll go ahead and get started. And if you have any questions, by all means, this is also a roundtable conversation that we can all share. And all of the information that I pull is straight from the California Association of Realtors. So that's where I do most of my research. That's where I get most of my content. And as members of the California Association of Realtors, all of you have this information as well. All right, so open houses with a NAR settlement. Everyone should have already known that August 17th was the changes to all of the forms, best practice, buyer representation agreement, open house advisories and sign-up sheets, and the MLS removing commissions, right, out of the MLS, right? And a lot of the conversations that I've been having with agents is, well, can we still conduct open houses? And the answer is, yeah, yes, you can. This does not change the way we do business, but we just have to now provide additional documentation to protect you and to protect the consumer and understand the fiduciary responsibilities that we have towards buyers and also sellers, okay? So as practice change requires by the NAR settlement in the all MLS participants working with a buyer must enter right into a written agreement before the buyer tours any home. This is a raised question about how agents should handle visitors to open house, right? Moving forward, okay. Now it's not something new. And if you're on Zoom, if I can please have you mute yourself. Let me go ahead and do so now. 1 second. Okay, mute, 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 mute. All right. Mute everyone. Okay. Okay, so I'm not getting any audio. Oh, okay. So people on Zoom, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Okay. All right. Just Mike said that there was no audio. Okay. All right. So as I was stating, moving forward, it's not something that is new. It's always been a practice when working with the buyer to do and sign a buyer representation agreement. But in the past, it was very lax. It was not a requirement, right? You had the option to sit and consult with a buyer and explain the initial process, right? And how the relationship is built. And ultimately, our goal is to get you the property of choice, right? But it was never a requirement to actually have a signed agreement with them. Some agents would, some agents didn't. Well, what was the whole purpose of these agreements, right? It's an agreement between our responsibility, buyer to the agent, agent to the buyer. Okay. But it also had language in there about who was going to pay you compensation. And the compensation was from the buyer paying the buyer's agent for the successful closing of a home. With that also, there was additional language of what the specifics of property we're looking for. It also had criteria and it had language in there about compensation. But it also had language in there that if anyone other than the buyer would pay you compensation or commission, that would offset the buyer from the responsibility to pay you because you were collecting commission. Now, this is pre-NAR, right? This is before the settlement. Remember, the MLS, you would do a little bit of research. Guess what? You would scroll all the way to the bottom. Guess what? You would find the compensation amount. So you knew exactly what you were getting. Well, now after the NAR, now that has changed. Now, when you look at the very bottom of the MLS, there's no specific percentage or flat fee that shows, right? So this is the whole purpose and the ammunition that you knew is to have a buyer representation agreement signed and secured. It shows your professionalism, but it also has information there of what you're going to do and what the buyer is going to do. And it has the same language about compensation that the buyer is responsible to pay. We're going to dive into safe practices and how to navigate open houses when you are the listing agent hosting your own open house, or you allow another agent host your open house. Okay. So a lot of it today is going to be more of a Q&A type of segue. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. All right. So why isn't this not popping up? There we go. All right, well, let's start off with the first question. Can a listing agent hold an open house after the implementation of the NAR settlement? Okay, pretty simple question, right? And the answer is yes. Nothing in the NAR settlement procures hosting an open house. All right. So as I stated earlier, and I will continue saying, is nothing changes when it comes to open houses. Okay. You can still conduct open houses. Let me go ahead and mute people once again. Okay. So you can continue doing open houses. That's been the practice since I've been doing real estate, and it will continue doing the open houses, right? It all really depends on your clients, right? Their wishes. And part of the responsibility when you are the listing agent is, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, part of what I do to market and try to get the most possible for your home is, conducting open houses, right? Because that attracts more buyers, right? Okay. And open houses are give and take. They're about 3 to 4 hours. Most of them are conducted during the weekends, 1 to 4, 12 to 3, 2 to 5, depending on your preference. That's where we see a lot of open houses. And I'm assuming that a lot of agents also have gone and seen other people do open houses too, just to get a vibe and a feel for it. But nothing based on the NAR settlement says that you cannot do open houses. Okay, you can still conduct open houses. Okay. All right. Question number 2. Is an agent holding an open house required to have every visitor who enters the open house sign a registration login sheet, 2, a non-agency agreement, or 3, a buyer representation agreement? Okay, it's not a trick question, folks. All right. The answer to that is whether any of these documents required depends on the interaction of the agent and the visitor. But ideally, the listing agent will have one of these forms signed for the purpose of clarifying the relationship. And the good news is that CAR has 4 different forms to help with these different situations. Okay. So forget about the past, especially for the newer agents on the call or in person here. All right. In the past, we've always conducted open houses by having a registry, right? We would have a registry. We would introduce ourselves. Hi, my name is Simon. Thank you so much for stopping by the open house. The property is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square feet on a 7,000 lot size. The home was built in 1955. the sellers have done lots of upgrades to the property. It is priced to sell. Here's a little bit of information, but before you tour the home, can I please have you sign my registry? Okay. Yeah, not a problem. I'll go ahead and sign the registry. Thank you so much. Most of the information on the signed registry is name, number, email, and a couple questions. Name, number, email, and a couple questions, right? Most agents that are really good at doing and honing in on their skill sets when it comes to hosting open houses would ask additional questions. How long have you been looking for a home? Are you working with a real estate agent? Have you been pre-approved for a loan? Yes or no, right? How soon do you need to sell? Okay. Maybe they're in the market of selling their property with moving into, right? Moving into a particular neighborhood, and your listing or the home you're hosting may be the ideal property. What's the whole purpose of hosting open houses? Anyone? Yeah, absolutely. The whole purpose of hosting open house is to generate opportunities, right? That's what I used to do. Because if I was not the listing agent, but I was asking agents, hey, can I have an opportunity to host? My whole purpose was because I wanted to generate leads. I wanted to generate opportunities. I wanted to generate a buyer that was interested in either buying this property or buying a property, or heck, buying or selling or investing. Remember, people do business with you when they like you and trust you, right? I say that over and over and over again. And the essence of why we do open houses is an opportunity for us to showcase our ability. Okay. Because in the few seconds of meeting someone for the first time, okay, and if they're in the position of buying or possibly selling, they will know if they're going to be working with you or not. So first impressions are always key, right? Always key. You got to be on top of it and don't be that agent that just gives information and walks away. Interact with the people, talk to them, be curious, ask a lot of questions. Be that curious George, right? And the reason is because you want to know their motivation. Are they motivated to buy? Are they motivated to sell something? Are they motivated to invest in something? But you will never know that if you're not at least interacting with people. Make sense? Okay. That's the whole purpose of open houses. Yeah, especially if you're the listing agent, right? You want to sell that house and move on to the next one, right? But there's opportunities when open houses, right? Because when you host an open house and you list a property, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to collect 2 to 3 new listings from that neighborhood if done properly. Does it happen all the time? No. Okay. It doesn't happen all the time. All right. Okay. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens, right? That's the whole purpose. There's agents that like to door knock. There's agents that like to cold call. There's agents that like to host open houses. When I started my real estate career, I did not like cold calling. And back in the early mid 90s, that was the part of our process is cold calling. No, not going to do it. I don't like it. I did not like it. But what I did like was hosting open houses. And that's how I started my business. I was consistent in doing open houses and I enjoyed it. Hey, 3 hours, 4 hours of my time with the opportunity to pick up a listing, an opportunity for me to get a buyer in escrow. Why not? It's a gamble, of course, right? You're going to have great open houses and not so great open houses. You may have tons of people that come in, or maybe 1 or 2 people that come in. You just never know. Okay. But the more you're doing it, the more engaged that there is a possibility, right? For example, let's just say that you are the listing agent, right? This is a fresh new listing. This weekend is the first open house, right? What should you be doing? Well, what you should be doing is at least 3 to 4 days introducing yourself to the local neighbors. At least hit 50 to 100 doors. Have your flyer ready. Hi, my name is Simon with Keller Williams. I just listed a property over on 123 ABC Street. It's a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 1,700 square feet on a 5,000 lot size, and it's priced to sell. We know that when there's a home for sale, that one or two people want to move in or want to sell. I wanted to personally introduce myself and invite you to my open house. My open house will be this Saturday from 1 to 4 p.m. I would love for you and your significant other to stop on by. Here's my flyer. My information is there if you have any questions. I look forward to seeing you on Saturday. Was that hard? Not at all. But there's a lot of agents that just cannot do that. All right. Get out of your comfort zone, folks. All right. This is your business. Okay. So let's go into the four quadrants, I should say, of the forms, right? Of all of the fun forms that we have going on. Let's see. So what are the forms? Is it coming up? It's not coming up on I see it on my screen, but I don't see it here. So there it is. All right. So what are the those forms, right? Okay. So the forms are the ones are here on the following image. All right, so the first form is the open house visitor non-agency disclosure and sign in car form OHNASI. Write them down, take a photo, whatever you need to do. These are the forms. The next form is the buyer non-agency agreement car form BNA. The next one is the buyer representation and broker compensation agreement, car form BRBC. And the last form is the property showing and representation agreement, car form PSRA. Okay. These are the forms that you would most likely utilize in a given matter when working with a buyer. Now, it may not happen, folks, okay? And I want to be crystal clear. It may not happen that you'll have any of these forms signed, okay? Because can we force a buyer to sign any forms? We cannot force them, okay? And we cannot stop them, from seeing the property if they refuse. Okay, and I'll explain it a little bit more detail because that was an incident that happened, not to one of our agents, but an agent that was hosting one of our listings. And unfortunately, there was a complaint because of that. Okay, so I want to be clear. Yes, we have forms we need to fill out, folks. Okay, and yes, we ask and encourage the buyer. And for the most part, most buyers are really good at saying, look, I want to comply. Here it is. It's how you deliver, and it's how you present it. Okay. Will give them the opportunity to feel comfortable to do and sign. It's no difference than going to a new construction. Have you ever done a new construction model homes? The representatives will have you come in and sign most of the time, right? They want to know how many people are coming in, right? They want to know if this buyer is a motivated buyer or seller, right? We don't know. The whole purpose is to have something in writing, but it's also a safety factor. Something happens, something gets damaged, something gets stolen, someone gets hurt. We at least have some information, right? Someone gets in a health situation where they pass out and we're calling 911, but we were able to get some information, right? Hey, this is Simon with Keller Williams. We have an emergency. We need police, fire department, paramedics. We have an elderly lady that was here seeing the open house, but she's down, he is down, whatever the case may be, right? That's the whole purpose. It looks like the person's name is right? Again, it's always for many reasons, safety and also just so you know who's coming into your open house. Should all of visitors to the property sign in using the OHNA? Okay. This is the best practice. Asking all adult visitors to sign in. By doing so, the visitor will be acknowledging that the agent at the open house is acting on behalf of the seller, and it's not representing the buyer. With all of these new changes, folks, okay, I want to be again very clear is that if you don't have any type of representation from the buyer, we're limited of what we can do and say to that buyer. If they want additional information, right, or want to work with us, then the next step is fantastic. But part of the process and with all the new regulations, we need to sit down and discuss what that looks like. Okay. Show your value. And that's where these forms come into play. Now, this is one of many forms, guys. Okay. This just starts the initial dialogue if someone is motivated enough that they want to work with you. Okay. Or want to submit an offer. The visitor also can use the OHNA to identify if they're working with another agent. So that open house agent or listing agent will know who to contact about future discussions about visitors' interest in the property. Okay. What if a consumer is working and most people that come in may have a realtor that they're working with? That's fine. Okay. Just divulge and disclose that so we can weed out the ones that have representation to the ones that are not. Because my goal as a agent hosting an open house is to identify the ones that are not being represented, right? Because my goal is obviously to try to build a relationship and see if I can help them submit an offer on this property or a property in general. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Now rocket science, folks. When a buyer signs the OHNA, is it required, a separate form required for each buyer? Okay. So the essence is what they're saying is, what if it's a family, right? A family of five, and there's two adults and three children, or three adults, right? Maybe an adult child, right? Maybe 18 or over, right? The answer is no. The form functions both as an advisory of the non-agency and also as a sign-in sheet, which has 7 signature blocks. It is also not necessary to have children sign or even adults if the adults are not the buyers. Okay. So pretty common sense, right? Use common sense when signing someone, right? If you have a family coming in, but you have two decision makers, you can have one of them sign. Okay. In essence, that's typically what we see most often is one, either the wife or the husband will sign on behalf of both. We only need a name and a phone number and an email because then we can do a follow-up, all right? After the open house, maybe a day or so, you would do a courtesy follow-up. Hey, this is Simon with KW. I just wanted to reach out and thank you for coming in and stopping by the open house on Saturday that I was hosting over on 123 ABC Street. I just wanted to ask if you had any questions or anything that I can answer for you. What did you think of the home? What did you think of the price? Is it something that you or your family may be interested in? If that's not the property, can I offer to show you other properties? Properties come on the market consistently on a daily basis. What are we trying to do? We're trying to build rapport, right? We're trying to close that gap so that way that buyer will eventually become a client of mine. That's the goal, folks. That's the whole purpose of open houses, but also to be in compliance. and do the right thing, right? Question number 6. What if the listing agent finds out that the visitor would like to create a working relationship with the agent? That's a good day, right? Very far and few will consumers say, yeah, you know what, Simon, you're all right. Yeah, and I'm very, very interested. I am not working with an agent, and I would like for you to represent me. Holy moly, that's a good feeling, right? Yeah. What do I do next? I was not expecting that. Wait a minute, that's not supposed to happen. But the reality, it does happen. And that's a good feeling, right? But it's still in the very beginning, folks. Okay. There's still a lot of work. That hill is still high, but you will eventually get up there. All right. But that's a good feeling when someone feels compelled that they want to work with you. That's an awesome feeling. So, what's the next step? In that case, and assuming that the visitor has not entered into any exclusive, and that's the key, exclusive agency agreement, the agent may want to ask the visitor to sign either a limited or a full buyer representation agreement. For a limited buyer representation, the new PSRA form can be used at the open house, but it's not limited to an open house properties. It cannot last longer than 30 days, and it is only non-exclusive. It has the space for up to 3 properties, and it can be canceled at any time. Although the broker may retain the right to be compensated for broker involvement, okay? But the full buyer representation, the BRBC, may be used. That form can be used for both listing properties at an open house or multiple properties. The agreement can last for up to 3 months, but may be extended. It may be either for exclusive or non-exclusive. So I'm going to distinguish one from the other, okay? Which one do you really, let me take that back. Which of these two forms, the PSRA or the BRBC form, is the one that you really truly want?
Exclusive.
100%. Yes. You want to get the BRBC because that now has more additional language that protects you, but then you have that exclusivity with that potential buyer. Whereas the PSRA is a very limited form that allows you up to 3 showings. And we still don't know, but part of the new laws and regulations that we must adhere to, it allows this particular form if that buyer wants to work with you, but only wants to work with you on a limited capacity. Okay. They're not 100% sure if they want a full exclusivity with you. Make sense? Then in order to satisfy that requirement, then the PSRA form will accomplish that. And I'll share with you through zip forms the 2 different forms, okay? And also the open house form, so that way you get a grasp and a better understanding of the forms that are available to you. But yeah, you want to get the buyer representation agreement because that's the one that has the most what's the word? The most security of mutual agreement with the buyer, and that's up to 3 months. And you can extend that time frame for an additional 90 days. But it also has information on there about cancellation. That if you have an exclusive agreement, then the buyer or the seller, excuse me, or the listing agent may cancel within a 30-day period, meaning that even though you have an agreement, it doesn't unilaterally just cancel if you have an exclusive right. You still have to give notification up to 30 days. And that still holds water if that buyer even after we cancel, goes and buys a property that you were broker involved and they buy within that 30-day period, you're still entitled to compensation. Okay. What if the visitor refuses to sign anything, but instead only wants to look at the property? I get this quite often, right? Well, Simon, I have this form here. What's the whole purpose if they don't want to sign the form, right? And that may happen. First, whether a prospecting buyer signs on the OHNA or not, they are welcome to come into the open house and view the property. Signing the form is not a condition, and I want to repeat, it is not a condition of entering, okay, entering the open house. So folks, okay, just for clarity and transparency, if they don't sign, you cannot say, nope, you cannot come into the open house because you got to follow the rules. You got to sign. And once you sign, then I will allow you to come into the open house. No. The whole purpose is it's an open house, public. Okay. Just because someone does not want to sign any of your forms does not give you the right to refuse entry to the property. Okay. Under certain conditions, and I'll explain it. Yes, sir.
If you're hosting the open house, don't you have a responsibility to nurse to keep your property, sure nothing happens?
Yeah.
It's not just open to anybody.
100%. You're going to be diligent. Yeah. And you're going to have like a swivel, right? Especially when you have a lot of people come into your open house. You may want to mentally prepare for something like that, because how can you control when you got 20, 30 people simultaneously coming in the house? There's no way, right? This is where maybe you may need an assistant, someone to help you, someone to guard the back, especially ladies. You got to be careful. There's a lot of crazy people out there, right? And right? You'll get that sense, that gut feeling, right? If something doesn't feel right, then, be mentally prepared. We've had classes of safety in the past. Never position yourself in a position where you're cornered, especially women, right? Because you just never know. But in these cases, especially if it's a hot property and you're going to get a lot of activity, you may want to prepare. Have a family member, a significant other. I've seen many spouses, especially the women, get their husbands involved, their boyfriends involved to help them host the open house. Now, they're not going to be talking, they're just there to help you. You are the one hosting, but you can also get someone else to help you facilitate the open house, right? You got eyes behind your back, to the side, to the other side, right? So be diligent when it comes to that. But going back to your question, yeah, absolutely. If there is something suspicious, or you just get that feeling, then have your phone ready, right? And be ready to call 911 if something feels, and walk away from it. Just leave the property. Okay. Nothing, and I repeat, nothing is more worth your safety. So if something just doesn't feel, just leave the premises, right? And call 911 immediately. And after you call 911, then, call a family member or one of us. We're here to support and help you. Okay. Now, this is not a safety class, so I don't want to go too far into it. But going back to refusing, right? Well, if someone is, abrupt, verbally saying all kinds of stuff, then we can politely says, look, I'm sorry you feel this way, and my job is just to host the open house, but I feel bad that you feel this way. Again, maybe it's not best for you to come into the property. I don't know. But it's very far and few that will ever happen, okay? But based on everything that I've talked to you, you cannot refuse anyone from coming in, right? And I've been in circumstances in situations where there's an abrupt neighbor that comes in screaming and let them vent, let them just pour all of it, right? There's nothing you can do, right? But politely, you cannot stop from someone seeing it. Well, I demand that yeah, by all means, look at the property, but just be cautious and write some notations, right? Because that may also give you information to provide the seller. Hey, by the way, just wanted to bring it to your attention, neighbor over, I believe 2 doors down came in and she or he or they were pretty bad. Just wanted to let you know. And maybe they have a relationship where the owner now can go and talk to that neighbor, says, hey, what happened? And let them vent out. But as real estate professionals, we have to hold our composure, right? And our demeanor and our professionalism, but we cannot refuse anyone because they're not signing any of our forms. Make sense? Okay.
Somewhere it says, interpretation of private interpretation.
Mhm. Okay, so what's your question about that?
Say, I don't have agent, I don't want to have agent. What is the answer for that one?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. We have buyers that don't wanna work with agents. They now are considered unrepresented buyers. Okay. And part of the listing agreement has two components, C1 and C2, that talks and explains about unrepresented buyers. And the buyer can be in a position that they don't want a real estate agent because they don't want to pay compensation. And if the listing agent is willing to take on that responsibility, the listing agent can get additional income or additional compensation to do so. Okay, but that's a different conversation. But again, in an open house parameter, that's fine. You don't have to work with any agent, but we're here because we know what we know, right? We're professionals, and my number one priority is to navigate and protect your best interests. But if they don't want to work with an agent, that's perfectly fine. What was your question?
But if the 2,500 fine is if I'm coming with somebody, that I'm showing them the house, then they can just sign something.
Well, at that level, if you're showing properties, you want to have something in writing. I mean, I would not take someone out without any type of written agreement. Why would I waste my time if they're not committed to me? It's considered a loyalty. I have a loyalty to you, you should have a loyalty to me, right? It's a relationship, folks. And if they're not willing to sign, you know, then I don't foresee why you want to work with them. Now, remember, past was different. This is the now. The past, you could get away without signing any agreement. But if this buyer, right, that you shown properties, right, and spend weekends looking and setting up appointments, goes and works with another agent, in the past, you would lose the opportunity for compensation. And the agent was so upset about it. It's like, Simon, I worked with this client for 3 weeks, and I just found out they opened escrow with another agent. And the first thing I asked, did you have a buyer representation agreement? Nope. All right, well, it's going to be hard to stand on two legs on this one and try to collect compensation when you didn't have a written agreement. So, this is why now you have that additional protection when having a buyer representation agreement. Yes, sir.
You approach, I mean, that would be pretty simple, but so maybe it's not, but how do you approach your buyer just to find what's that conversation started?
Are we talking about on an open house?
Your buyer, like, you're about to start showing them. What's that? Just a quick little tidbit, what would that sound?
They don't obligate to sign, you know what I'm saying?
Well, remember, it's common sense, okay? So just because we're talking, right? And again, just the give and take of the circumstances, right? Every scenario, every case is going to be different. All right. I don't have the best practice for all scenarios. You have to be the judgment on how and when to sign this form. When you start feeling that they're asking a lot of questions is when you need to stop and say, those are great questions, okay? But with all of these new changes, unfortunately, we need to sit down and discuss, what that looks like. And part of my responsibility is a mutual agreement to have a signed agreement, okay? Now, remember, this is not locking locking you in and throwing the keys, right? Because you and I can mutually agree to cancel. But in order for me to be able to work with you, I need to follow new rules and policy and procedures. And unfortunately, it's standard practice with all offices that now we have to have a buyer agreement in place. Okay. But I also want to be clear with you is that under no obligation, if you're not completely happy with the services that I provide, give me the opportunity to correct it. And then after still not happy, then we mutually agree to cancel this agreement. I'll rip the contract and you're free to go. Okay. I think if you set the tone and the expectations that way, people will be more at ease. All right, where do I need to sign? Right? That's just my view of seeing it, right? Why would I force someone to stay with me if they're not happy with me? Go find new business, folks.
Here's why I asked that question, is because, when you have somebody sign, sometimes when you have somebody sign them, they kind of take a step back and start wondering a lot of things, so what, I just wanted to.
Cancellation, that's a good point.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I get it. I get it. I mean, it can go many variables and different. The whole purpose is I want and you want, we both want to work together, right? That's the whole accomplishment of, why you host an open house. Why would I want to work with someone that doesn't want to work with me, right? But the essence of it is just to protect you in the process. Because if you don't, then one, you may not be able to collect compensation. And two, if we have to fight for compensation because the buyers did you wrong, we don't have paper trail to back it up. That's the whole purpose of all this. One, to be in compliance. Two, to hold the buyer accountable. And three, if they don't, we go after because they breached the contract for damages and commission. That's the whole purpose. But again, looking at the bigger picture, folks, okay? As easy as these forms can be signed, right, is as easy as we can terminate these agreements. Okay. Remember, the buyer representation agreement is only 3 months, right? They're not lengthy like it was in the past, where now you lock in a buyer for 1 year, right? They have the option to work with you for 90 days with the opportunity to extend it, or, hey, you know what? Thank you, Simon, for, giving us the opportunity to work with you. I know we couldn't find, a property, but I think I'm ready to go in a different direction. Yeah, no problem. I appreciate the time. I'm sorry that I was not able to find or secure or negotiate, whatever the case may be. But hey, if anything changes, I would love to work with you. No problem, right? One, it expires, or two, we decide to mutually agree to cancel, or three, either party decides, maybe I don't want to work with these buyers because they're not realistic. And that may happen. I might be like, why am I wasting so many weekends looking at properties when they are just not being realistic? And that can happen. It's your job, right, to anchor down and bring them down to earth and say, look, here are the expectations, okay? And if they're not happy with that, then maybe I'm not the right agent. And that's okay, folks. There's a lot of buyers out there. Yeah.
Have to be in a contract at those times because cancel too.
Yeah. You can cancel too in those times too. Okay? Yes, sir.
House and they sign in saying, hey, I want to bring my wife back Tuesday. Do I get the PSRA signed?
No, so if it's someone that already signed and that person signed, then just if that significant other wants to bring a family member or the wife or husband, I don't think you need to sign. You already have documentation and proof that they have signed in the past. Okay, go. Yes.
We're hosting an open house and I'm going to sign any forms. I'll take a look. How to think. You're limited to what.
Repeat the question again. I'm sorry.
So if you don't want to sign any forms, I'll take a look. You know. Stay in compliance. Do you, are you limited to what questions you can answer?
You just said it spot on. You know, unfortunately, I understand it and I respect your decision not to want to sign any type of agreement, but I am limited of what information I can provide you. Unfortunately, then I would ask you to maybe speak with an attorney that can guide you or speak with someone else that you may feel a little bit more comfortable with. But I'm limited of the information that I can provide you without having some type of written agreement with you.
They ask like, generic, shouldn't say, geez, but, you know,
Yeah. Remember, just they come in, hey, you got to sign this agreement. I won't be able to give you any information. Come on, it's common practice, right? It's common sense at the end of the day. You know, and I'll be frank, and I know this is being recorded, but the first weekend when all of the changes happened, I was out in Riverside, you know, and looking at open houses. And guess what? All of the agents that were hosting did not have me sign anything, did not ask any questions. Okay. They let me go into the property and no problem. I was like, wait, what happened? We're over here preaching our agents, you got to do X, Y, and Z, right? But I'm not those other brokerages and I'm not those other agents, okay? I don't know what they're telling their agents. But for our offices, you know, we want to be in compliance, right? Because the big wigs out there are watching us, right? To make sure that we're in compliance. CAR, DER, DOJ, and then, you know, attorneys. They're keeping an eye on us because they are looking to possibly do a future class action lawsuit. I don't know. You know, this is why we got into this mess in the first place, okay? And again, I don't want to go too far left field on this because the whole content of today is just kind of, you know, the safe practices of open houses and the proper documentations that we need to use in order for us to be in compliance. Let me answer some of the questions here real quick on the Zoom chat. So Jane says, hey, Simon, if someone walks into with their agent, are they still required to sign in? What if the buyer who only claims they have an agent, are they required to sign in? Okay, that's a very good question. So if the agent is present, okay, if their agent is present, then no. You don't have to have them sign because they already have an agreement with that agent. I would just say for paper trail, you can have the agent sign on behalf of the client, or you can ask the agent, hey, can you provide me with a business card? Okay, so that way you have a business card that they are actual agent. And that's perfectly fine and very legitimate to ask. So if I was going in with my clients as an example, and the listing agent says, hey, are you a realtor? They already kind of distinguish, hey, are you a realtor or not, right? No, they don't have to sign. You can ask the agent to sign on behalf of the clients, or you can ask the agent, hey, you know, can you just provide me with your business card? Okay, yeah, no problem. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, now interact in conversations with the agent all day long. Okay, agent to agent conversation, you can do so. They can ask how many offers, this and that, right? That's part of, you know, having agents involved, right? But when it comes to a buyer or potential buyers, then that changes the trajectory of that conversation. Then that's when you have to politely says, look, in order for me to move forward with this, part of the process with the new rules, we have to have something in writing, either a non or an exclusive agreement. Okay, make sense? All right.
Simon?
Yes.
Yeah, if I am doing a listing, open house, and it's my listing, I always like to have their contact information to follow up with them. But if I am hosting an open house for somebody else, I like to ask their business card or information and give it to the listing agent for them to follow up.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. If you're
Because they might have a
hosting,
potential, buyer that will submit I do that for a courtesy for the people that allow me to do the listing, the hosting the open house. And I say,
Yeah.
these 3 agents came over, looks like the people were interested, please follow up with them, and I give them the information.
yeah. No, that's good business practice, Rosie. So thank you for sharing. But yeah, 100%. If you are hosting an open house for the agent, the listing agent, then yeah, it's a common courtesy to ask for, because you just never know. Sometimes the dialogue is this, and it's happened to a lot of agents. You build that relationship with that other agent, and that agent may have another listing that you may have a buyer for. But if you're not having dialogue and conversation, maybe through that little small talk, she or he says, "Hey, yeah, I'm picking up a listing here in the city of Torrance." I said, "Oh, wonderful. Can you tell me a little bit more?" "Yeah, it's still not on the market, but what it is, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. What are you going to list it for?" "Well, we're going to list it north of 111. "Hey, I might have a buyer for you. Let's exchange business cards, right? Because I might have a buyer for her listing, right?" So again, another segue of why you want to build relationships and rapport with agents that are coming in, and you as hosting an open house as well. All right. All right. So, okay, I answered James. And then Rosie is a buyer says he has an exclusive agreement with another agent and asked the agent to just show him 2 to 3 properties. Is their agent is unavailable? Are they or considering interviewing other agent? Okay. Depends on the circumstances. Okay. That's where you've got to be diligent, Rosie. And what I mean by that, the question is, if you're hosting an open house and a buyer has an exclusive agreement with another agent, okay, and they're asking you, the hosting agent hosting the open house, "Hey, can you show me 2 to 3 properties?" As because their agent is unavailable. Okay. An exclusive agreement with another agent. Okay. But they're asking you, "Hey, you know what? My agent's on vacation. Can you show me 3 other properties?" Right? Pros and cons. All right. Well, the pro on this situation is they have an obligation already with another agent, right? They have an exclusive. It's not my fault that the agent is out of commission while their clients are going around looking at open houses, right? And they're asking us now, right? The question here is yes and no. And the reason I say yes and no is because even if they have a buyer representation agreement, all right, they may be responsible to pay 2 commissions. And that agent may also come back to haunt you and says, "Look, why did you show my client's property," right? So the way you approach that is twofold. Okay. One is they need to speak with their client and ask them, "Hey, I know you're on vacation. We have a buyer representation agreement in place. I have an agent that is willing to do so. I would caution you that because one is you have an agreement. How would you feel if your clients, right? If your clients are out there looking at other properties, right? Unfortunately, the way it should be done, the best practice to be done is if you know you're going on vacation, get one of your agents in the office and say, "Hey, I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks. I need you to help me with my clients. And if they have any questions or want to look at properties, can you help me with showing homes?" Okay. It doesn't take that much for someone to go and open up a door for you, right? And there's apps now that allow you that you don't have any representation, but just to go open up the door, see the property, come out. In our perspective, one, why would I do that? One, there's no guarantee that they're going to work for me, right? So I would probably say no, out of respect to your agent. Maybe you need to call your agent and see if one of the agent's assistants or maybe someone from their office can help you, right? Because one, it's unethical for me to step on someone that has a exclusive agreement with you. Now, if it's a non-exclusive, that changes the conversation. Because a non-exclusive, any agent who showcases a property and ultimately buys the home may be entitled to compensation, where the agent that doesn't have may not be entitled to compensation. As an exclusive, it doesn't matter who brings the property, the agent still is entitled to compensation. So to answer your question, Rosie, I probably would not do that. Okay, I would not do it as a buyer who has an exclusive agreement with two components, no guarantee of compensation, and then two, that agent may file an ethics complaint for violating and stepping in and talking to their clients.
Oh, I do
Hope that
agree.
kind
Just sometimes people come and they said, oh, my agent is out of town. Before they didn't have a exclusive, but now because they're gonna have, it's better to say, call your agent and ask your agent or somebody else to show you.
Yeah, I get it. Again, to me, I just feel that it's kind of walking on fire on that one. I probably would refuse to do so, just because, they have an exclusive agreement with them. All right, how about the Papa, what as body? That's funny. Okay. Thomas says, so no more using Open House Pro. Yes and no. So here's the thing, okay, because this has come across many times, and that's a good question, Thomas. You can have the proper compliance form, the open house sign-in form, right, as a disclaimer, but you can still use third-party apps to register them as long as they have a visual of the form and it says the following, because there's specific language in there that says about all of the changes, okay? And then you can have them sign, please read this, and then please go to my tablet and register for this property. So yes, Thomas, to that question, you can still continue using Open Home Pro, or you can have them sign your regular registry without actually having signed that specific form, but you want to have that form there where they can read the information. Because that's the whole purpose. It's read the information and you can now tag that to the form for future references. Make sure that the registry is also the date that you hosted the open house with the exact form. So it coincides with the form date that you're hosting the open house and the registry. So if this ever comes back, you have, here's the registry of all the people. Here was the form that I provided, but I just had them sign a different registry. What if my client wants to host an open house on their own? Yeah. If a seller wants to do an open house, it's their house. They can do whatever they want to their house. That does not change anything. They can ask questions as the sellers, but I would caution them and say, look, the whole purpose that you hired me, right, is to help you negotiate and bring you the best possible with the least amount of headaches to net you the most, right? If someone is interested or inquiring, send them my way, give them my contact information. But you can have your clients also host the open house as well. Okay. All right, ask when their BRBC expires, they may be unhappy with their agent and you might pick up a buyer. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know who you are on Zoom, but yeah, absolutely. If the BRBC form does expire, right, then it's free game. Any agent can now have the opportunity to work. Remember, a termination or an expiration of the buyer representation agreement allows a new agent to step in and be that new agent of choice.
As you were saying, they can cancel it if they're responsible. Take care of the buyer.
Yeah. So either party can terminate the agreement. Absolutely. The agent is always out of town. Yeah, that happens quite often. All right, let's continue with the presentation. I got a couple more slides and then we should be done. All right, so however, if the circumstances is inadvisable for the open house agent to be guarded in their discussion, you do not want to create or imply an inverted agency. By merely talking to the buyer will make it clear that you are representing the seller and not the buyer. Does not likely constitute working with the buyer, which would require a written buyer agreement. Unfortunately, since there is no bright line clearly distinguishing when talking to a visitor, will lead the visitor to believe that you are working with them, caution would be pertinent, okay? Pertinent. Accordingly, under another approach would be to refrain from providing any information about the property other than what is on the informational sheet. Preparing by the listing agent, engage in beyond that may lead the visitor to believe that an open house agent is acting as their agent. If the visitor asks for information beyond what is contained in the information sheet, the open house agent should tell the visitor that they cannot provide such information unless the visitor is willing to sign in. This would be more construct to a risk management approach. Finally, the listing agent may simply provide the buyer with the buyer non-agency agreement form, BNA. This will help document the fact of the non-agency, even if the buyer does not sign. It provides, and it should be prevented as an agency by implications. So meaning, okay, as I stated earlier, we cannot force anyone to sign any of the forms, right? We can encourage. And if they don't want to sign, that does not mean you cannot allow them to still see the property. By all means, take a look at the property and leave it at that. Here's the flyer, look at the property, right? They come back and now they're asking you all these questions, right? Well, then that's when you need to kind of stop and says, look, unfortunately, with all these new rules, in order for me to, continue with additional information other than what's on the flyer, then we have to come into an agreement if you're willing to sign an agreement with me, okay? And this agreement, just for clarity and transparency, can be terminated, okay? You may not want to work with me, but if you want to work with me, then the process is for us to sign an agreement, right? A non or an exclusive agreement. Oops, sorry. Okay, last question. If another agent within the listing office is holding the open house, even though they are not the individual agent that obtained the listing, should they also ask visitors to sign in using the OHNA form? And the answer is yes. This applies to every agent within the listing office, since every agent within the listing office at that open house is attempting to find a buyer for that property on behalf of the seller. Okay, so that kind of concludes the position. When hosting an open house, if you're the listing agent hosting your own open house, or if you are hosting it for the listing agent, all of this is all part of our process, okay? So you must provide these documentations. Remember, the number one goal for all of this is for you to inquire and get a buyer from it or a potential seller from it, right? The buyer that comes into the open house may be ready to submit an offer, right? It may not have any representation. Or that buyer may be saying, look, I like this property, but it just doesn't hit all the bells and whistles. Hey, you know what? I want representation. Can you show me other properties? Then that twofold form is the BRBC form or the PRBC form is used to accomplish those demands, right? If they said, look, I just want to see a couple more properties, under no obligation do I want to sign an exclusive with you, but if you can show me and if I like them, then I'll give you the option to represent me in submitting the offer. Okay, here's the form that we need to use, okay? If they like all of your services and feel compelled, then, you want to go with the motion of getting the buyer representation agreement, okay? So with that being said, that concludes. If you have any questions regarding any of the content today, you can reach out to me via email or you can call and text me. All right. That concludes our class today. And we're kind of little on time today, so have a wonderful Friday. Have a wonderful long holiday weekend as well. And I will see you on our next contract class. Thank you, everyone.